It is time now to let the noise of your world fade into silence. Find your most comfortable position, dim your lights, and allow your mind to quiet itself. Tonight, I invite you on a journey not of conquest, but of confinement. We are traveling to the heart of the Middle Kingdom, to a place no commoner could enter for 500 years. We are going to the Forbidden City. For the next few moments, simply relax, breathe, and let your imagination awaken. We are about to step into the golden robes of the Son of Heaven himself. If you enjoy these journeys into the past, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, so you never miss an Odyssey. Now, close your eyes. The story is about to begin. It is the largest palace complex in the world, a city of 9,999 rooms, surrounded by a moat and a towering purple wall. For 5 centuries, it was the celestial center of the universe, a place where an empire of 100 million souls was ruled by a single man. This was the Forbidden City. To live here was to be a god on earth. Your every whim a command, your every word law. But to be emperor was also to be the most isolated man in existence. A prisoner in a gilded cage, watched by 10,000 eyes. To understand this paradox, you must live it. You are Juhijan, you are a child about to be named the Wanli emperor. You are the Son of Heaven, and you have just inherited the most glorious prison ever built. Your first memory is not of warmth or comfort, but of silence. A profound, absolute silence, broken only by the whisper of silk against marble floors. You are 3 years old, perhaps 4, and you stand in a courtyard so vast that the walls seem to curve with the horizon itself. The sky above is a perfect square of blue, framed by golden roof tiles that gleam like dragon scales in the sun. You do not run. You do not play. You stand perfectly still, as you have been taught, your small hands folded within the voluminous sleeves of your embroidered robe. The faces around you are a blur of painted masks and rigid expressions. Eunuchs in dark robes bow so low their foreheads touch the stone. Palace maids kneel with their eyes cast down, never daring to meet your gaze. Your wet nurse, the only person who has ever held you with anything resembling tenderness, keeps a careful distance now, her face composed in an expression of reverent fear. You are a prince of the Imperial house, 3rd son of the Long-King Emperor, and even at this tender age, you understand that you are not like other children. You are not entirely human. The air is thick with incense, sandalwood and jasmine, myrrh and ambergris. The smoke rises in lazy spirals from bronze censers shaped like mythical beasts. The smell is so constant, so pervasive, that you will carry it with you for the rest of your life. Decades from now, in moments of stress or fear, you will catch a whiff of sandalwood and be transported instantly back to these early years. To this sensation of being watched, always watched, by invisible eyes. Your world is divided into colors and textures, rather than places and people. There is the forbidden yellow, the imperial yellow that only you and your father may wear. It is the color of the sun, of the center of the cosmos, and it marks you as separate from all other beings. Your robes are heavy with gold thread, with embroidered dragons that coil and twist across silk, so fine it seems woven from light itself. The weight of these garments is considerable, especially for a child. Your shoulders ache. Your neck grows tired from holding up the elaborate headdress you must wear for formal occasions. But you do not complain. Emperors do not complain. Your tutors begin their work early. You are brought each morning to a hall where ancient scholars, men with long white beards and eyes like polished stones, teach you the basics of written Chinese. The characters swim before your eyes, thousands upon thousands of them, each one a small world of meaning. You practice with a brush that seems too large for your small hand, forming clumsy strokes on paper that costs more than a peasant family would earn in a year. When you make a mistake, the tutor's face remains impassive, but you feel the weight of his disappointment like a physical thing. You are not permitted to be merely adequate. You are the dragon seed, and excellence is your birthright and your burden. You have no companions your own age. The other children in the palace, the sons and daughters of concubines and lesser nobles, are kept strictly away from you. You might contaminate them with your divine essence, or they might contaminate you with their mortality. Instead, your playmates are eunuchs, men who have been castrated to serve in the inner palace. They smile at you with mouths that never quite reach their eyes. They bring you toys, elaborate mechanical birds that sing when wound, miniature armies of jade soldiers, kites painted with phoenixes and tigers. But they handle these toys with such reverence, such careful ritual, that the joy is drained from them before they ever reach your hands. There is one eunuch from others. A younger is just weathered. He looks at you, there's something almost kindness in his. He teaches you small rebellions, Tiny moments of unity makes ritual. He shows you how to sing extra sweet meals. He tells stories, not the histories and moral tales that are tutors, but folk store the fox spirits and business. Taste the laugh. The brief moments feel most like a young child. Babies on the calculated. You wonder. Follow is building loyalty. Being a bond will use to advance his position when you come to power. In the first city, your mother is a distant figure, more constant person. She's once a low level, but with later rank of Imperial consort. She loves you. You think, in the way mothers love their sons. But that love's mediated through so many layers of protocol and ritual that it becomes almost abstract. You see her on important days at a house. You bow before her, touching her forehead different times, and she's her while at least pain in her face. She has to do questions about your seat. Nods up with her answers, and then you don't climb up. To feel her arms around you, to hear her whisper your name without the weight of titles attached. Place is not permitted. She's the sorts you are, thorns. The distance between you is measured not in steps, but in cosmic court. The palace itself is through tragic care. You learn before you learn. You wake when first burned out in the darkness before dawn. You hear the shuffle of feet, thousands of servants begin their day, lighting lanterns, carrying water, preparing the meals that we serve throughout the complex. You distinguish the different bells, each with a tone and the bell for one audience, the bell for sacrificials, the bell that announced the emperor's movement from one hall to another. The entire speaks and moves to these sounds. A vast organism with your father at its heart. Each the long only occasionally. He's a pale, thin man. A big house elixirs that promise immortality, but deliver only murder. When you are brought before him for formal infections, you see the hands, yellow cast eye, gesture as though trying to remember who you are, then nods vaguely and waves you away. You are his third son, not the eldest, and there is no reason to believe you will ever be more than a decorative prince, married off to some noble family, living a life of comfortable irrelevance in some distant corner of the palace. Fate, however, has other plans. Your eldest brother, the crown prince, is a weak and sickly child. He coughs through the night, and the palace physicians shake their heads gravely when they emerge from his chambers. Your second brother dies in infancy, a tragedy announced by the wailing of mourning women and the burning of spirit money. Suddenly, terrifyingly, you are the spare that might become the heir. The attention of the court shifts to wait. The lessons intensify. The scrutiny becomes unbearable. Every cough, every sneeze, every moment of childish attention is noted and reported. Your health becomes a matter of statements. You are fed tonics, subject to endless examination by physicians who prod and poke at you with humorous as though you are not present. You begin to understand the way that children understand what a good person but vessel are the container for the Imperial blood care of the mandate. Your body does not belong to you. Your life does not belong to you. You exist for the dynasty, for the empire, for the continuation of a cosmic war stretched back 3,000 years of history. This little you robes, constant and miserable. At night, lonely pressure, surrounded by guards who stand silent vigil outside your door. You sometimes weep. You weep quietly, pressing face into silk pillows, because even if is not truly private. Eunuchs lift your pillow, and reports will be made. Court will speculate of your emotional state, your fitness to rule, your strength of character, so you learn to cry without making sound, to grieve without expression, to feel loneliness so profound that it becomes a kind of nut. The forbidden state you're beginning to realize is not named for those forbidden to. It's named for those who live thin, forbidden to leave, forbidden to really, forbidden to show weakness or fear, simple human need. For 5 years old, and you are learning to be about the gods you are discovering are simply terrible. The news comes in for tonight, when the world is at its darkest and most still. 5 years old, beaming fitfully of others you have seen and you have never had. When Fu Hao shakes you awake, his face is grave and lamplight, and for once there is confusion in his eyes. Only Daniel the emperor is dead. Your father has finally succumbed to the poisons he has been ingesting for years. The mercury and lead and arsenic that those alchemists promised will grant immortality, but instead delivered only madness and death. You are now, in the eyes of heaven and earth, the son of heaven himself. You don't feel different. You feel small and cold and confused. You want to ask about what this means, what it's supposed to do, whether you can go back to sleep and deal with this in the morning, but it tells you childhood, that fleeting and constrained thing you have known, is now completely over. You rise from your bed, and a swarm of eunuchs upon you, swing away to the robes being almost transformation. The ceremony takes for hours. You sandwich layer after layer of things out of your body. First, the innermost robe of white silk, pure and clean. Then the middle was increasing formality, each one heavy at last. Then the ribbon robe, made of silk so precious that a single thread could fit family for a month. It's deep yellow, the forbidden yellow. Embroidered across every inch of its are dragons, 9 dragons that writhe and coil in clouds and waves. The symbol is implicit. You are the dragon. You are the storm. You are the bringer of rain and the voice of it. There is a small child. Your shoulders burden, but eunuchs on each side support. Their hands are yours, bearing some of the weight. Then comes the headdress. The neon, one, black leopard hat, for which items jades, polyphonies, a curtain. You can see all these curtains. Everything slightly obscured, set unreal. It's too symbolic. The emperor does not look directly upon his subjects, lest his body be too much. You get a jade towel, which you grip with both hands, hold before your chest throughout the ceremony. Your fingers ache around it. You are told to drop it, not to let it, for it represents your authority and your connection to the others. You didn't understand it, but inside screaming. You are 9 years old. You want your mother. You want to run you know it from this nightmare and find it was some elaborate mistake. But no mistake. The doors chamber open, and you are led up into the pre-dawn darkness of the forbidden city. The mass has been transformed overnight. Every surface is hung with white, the color of morning, land with pale light, casting long shadows across the courtyards. And thousands and thousands of people land to walk into the courtyards, all of them in morning white, all of them prostrate on the ground. You walk forward, guided by Feng, 2 eunuchs, whose names you do not know. You walk through the gate of supreme harmony, under the watchful gaze of guardian lions whose eyes seem to follow your pulse. You walk across courtyards, past the entire villages, and with every step, the people around you press their foreheads to the ground, and you in a low, rumbling voice, 10,000 years, 10,000 years, 10,000 years. This is now. Your Nami, Wansui, the eternal, the one deliverer. The hall of supreme harmony looms before you, the largest construction in China, perhaps in the world. It refers in sweet herbs to a sky, where yellow seem to capture hold of free one. You climb the marble stairs. Each step in front of your robes enter the hall. The interior is vast and dim, lit by hundreds of red lanterns that cast everything in a warm, hellish glow. At the far end
طالع علينا بنظرات غريبة. ياي، إيش
And
هذا؟ هذول
on a
إيش؟
raised platform sits the dragon throne. It is carved from a single piece of dark wood and inlaid with gold and mother of pearl. It is both magnificent and terrifying. Less a piece of furniture than an altar. Grand Secretary Zheng Zhuzhang waits beside the throne. He is a tall man with a severe face and eyes that seem to look through you rather than at you. He is the most powerful man in the empire, the chief minister who has effectively run the government during your father's illness. He boasts you the shallowest bow of respect from superior to inferior, and you understand the message. He acknowledges your divine status, but he is still the master here. You are the symbol. He is the substance. The ceremony begins. Officials file in, arranged by rank and department, each one approaching the throne to perform the 3 kneeling and 9 prostrations required in the presence of the emperor. You sit on the throne, your feet not quite reaching the footrest, your small body dwarfed by the massive chair. The jade beads of your headdress sway and click together with every tiny movement. The jade tablet grows slippery in your sweating hands, and still they come, wave after wave of officials, all in perfect formation, all performing the exact same ritual. Zheng Zhuzhang reads the proclamation in a voice that echoes through the hall. You are declared the Wanli Emperor, the 10th Emperor of the Ming Dynasty, ruler of all under heaven, the Son of Heaven himself, mediator between the celestial realm and the mortal world. The words wash over you without meaning. You understand them intellectually. You have been taught their significance in your studies, but they do not connect to the small, frightened boy sitting on this impossible throne. How can you be the voice of heaven? How can you mediate between gods and men? You still sometimes wet your bed at night. The ceremony continues for hours. There are prayers and declarations, the burning of incense, the presentation of the imperial seals that bear your reign name. You are given your Iran name, Wanli, which means 10,000 calendars, a wish for a long and prosperous reign. You will rule under this name for the next 48 years, the longest reign of any Ming emperor, but you will spend most of those years wishing you had never been born into this golden prison. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the heat in the hall becomes oppressive. Sweat runs down your back beneath the layers of silk. Your legs cramp from sitting motionless for so long. Your arms shake with the effort of holding the jade tablet, but you do not move. You do not speak. You sit as you have been instructed, projecting an image of divine serenity while inside you are crumbling. This is your first lesson in the true nature of imperial power. It is not about what you feel or what you want. It is about what you project, what you symbolize. You are no longer Zhu Hizhang. You are the Wanli Emperor, and the Wanli Emperor does not have feelings. When the ceremony finally ends, and you are led back to your chambers, you collapse. Eunuchs strip away the heavy robes and bathe you in water scented with chrysanthemum. Your mother comes to you, tears streaming down her face. She has been elevated to the rank of Empress Dowager, the most powerful woman in the empire. She holds you, finally, without the barrier of protocol, and you sob into her shoulder like the child you still are. She whispers reassurances, tells you that you will grow into this role, that you will become a great emperor like your ancestors. But you can hear the fear in her voice. She knows, as you are beginning to know, that you have been given a burden no human being should have to carry. That night, you lie awake in the emperor's private quarters, a suite of rooms even more luxurious and more isolating than your previous chambers. The bed is enormous, carved with dragons and phoenixes, hung with curtains of the finest silk, but it feels like a tomb. You are surrounded by guards, by eunuchs sleeping in antechambers, by the weight of 1,000 years of history pressing down on you. You are the most powerful person in the most powerful empire on earth, and you have never felt more powerless, more trapped, more utterly alone. Zheng Zhuzhang comes to you the morning after your coronation, and your real education begins. If your childhood tutors were strict, Zheng is merciless. He is 51 years old, at the height of his intellectual and political powers, and he has a vision for reforming the empire that requires a compliant emperor who
Did
will
you
not
know that
interfere
right
with his
now, as you're
policies.
watching this
You,
video,
a 9-year-old
nearly
boy,
1 in 3 people
are the
over
perfect
50
tool for his
has some
purposes.
form of liver
He intends
damage,
to shape you,
and most of
to
them have
mold you,
absolutely
to
no
turn you
idea.
into the kind of ruler he
Here's what's
believes
even
China
more
needs.
shocking.
What he does
The
not
foods
realize,
you think are
what he
healthy,
will never
the
understand,
ones you eat every
is that in
single
controlling
day,
you so completely,
could be silently
he is
destroying
planting
your
the
liver
seeds
as
of
we
resentment
speak.
that will eventually
And by the
destroy
time
his
symptoms
legacy.
show up,
Your day
the
now
damage
begins
might
at the
already
fourth
be
watch.
severe.
Around
Today
4
I'm
in the
going to
morning,
reveal the
you are
7
woken
most
by
dangerous
eunuchs
foods for
who
your
dress you
liver
quickly in
after
study
age
robes,
50.
less formal
Some
than
of
the
these
full
will
imperial
surprise you.
regalia, but
Some
still
might
heavy
even be
with
in your
symbolism.
kitchen right
You are
now.
brought to the hall
But
of
here's the good
literary
news.
profundity,
Once you
a
know what
smaller hall within the palace complex that serves as your classroom. Zheng Zhuzhang waits for you there, along with 2 other tutors, lesser scholars who assist him but never dared to contradict him. You bow to them, they bow to you, and then the performance of mutual respect is over. You are a student, and Zhang is determined to be the strictest teacher in the empire's history. The curriculum is punishing. You study the 4 books and 5 classics, the foundational texts of Confucian philosophy. You memorize passages that run for pages, ancient wisdom about the proper relationships between ruler and subject, father and son, husband and wife. You learn that the emperor is not a tyrant but a moral exemplar, that your primary duty is not to exercise power but to embody virtue. You'll learn that the mandate of heaven is not a blank check for imperial whims, but a conditional grant that can be revoked if you fail in your moral duties. Heaven, Zhang tells you again and again, does not grant power to tyrants. It grants power to the virtuous, and virtue requires discipline, study, and above all, listening to your wise ministers. Zhang's teaching method is relentless questioning. He asks you to interpret passages from the classics, then picks apart your answers with surgical precision. He points out logical flaws, insufficient understanding, failure to grasp deeper meanings. You are 9, then 10, then 11 years old, and you are being held to a standard that would challenge a mature scholar. When you falter, when you cannot answer, Zhang's face grows stern. He does not shout. He does not need to. His disappointment is punishment enough. You learn to dread that look, that slight narrowing of his eyes that tells you that you have failed yet again to meet his impossible standards. But the Confucian classics are only part of your education. Zhang also insists that you understand history, the rise and fall of dynasties, the mistakes of past. You study the Qin Dynasty, unified China, and then collapsed, after only 15 years because its emperor was a tyrant who burned books and buried scholars. You study the Tang Dynasty, the golden age of Chinese civilization, brought low by imperial weakness and the Lushan rebellion. You study the Song Dynasty, prosperous and cultured but ultimately conquered by foreign invaders because its emperors neglected military affairs. Every lesson is a warning, every historical anecdote a cautionary tale. Do not be cruel like Qin Shi Huang. Do not be weak like the late Tang Emperor. Do not neglect defense like the Song. Be wise, be virtuous, be balanced. In other words, be imposible. Zhang controls every aspect of your life. He sets your schedule, determines your meals, chooses your clothing, even decides when you may visit your mother. He argues that this is necessary, that the young emperor must not be corrupted by the indulgences of palace life, by the flattery of eunuchs and the machinations of palace women. You must remain pure, focused, dedicated to your studies and your duties. In practice, this means you have no freedom whatsoever. You wake when Zhang decrees. You study what Zhang selects. You eat what Zhang approves. You go to sleep when Zhang determines the day is over. You are the emperor, but Zhang is your jailer. There are brief respites in this grueling routine. Once every 10 days, Zhang permits you to have a day of reduced study, what he calls a day of rest, but which is really just a day with slightly fewer hours of lessons. On these days, you are allowed to practice calligraphy for pleasure rather than for instruction, to paint, to compose poetry. You discover that you have some talent for these arts. Your brushwork is elegant. Your poems show sensitivity and depth. For a few hours, you feel almost human, almost yourself. But then the next day dawns, and you are back in the hall of literary profundity, back under Zhang's merciless scrutiny. As you grow older, Zhang begins to bring you into the actual governance of the empire. You sit in on audiences with high officials. You read memorials from provincial governors, reports of harvests and taxes, petitions for relief from droughts and floods. Zhang explains the issues to you, outlines the various positions, then tells you what decision you should make. You announce this decision, and it is implemented immediately. The officials bow and thank you for your wisdom. But you know, and they know, and Zhang knows, that these are not your decisions. You are a puppet, mouthing words that Zhang has written for you. This arrangement galls you more with each passing year. You are 13, 14, 15 years old. You are approaching manhood. You are the emperor, yet you have less autonomy than a peasant child in the countryside. The peasant child can choose to play or work, can speak freely, can even rebel against his parents. You can do none of these things. Every word you speak is rehearsed. Every action is choreographed. Even your thoughts, you sometimes fear, are not entirely your own. So thoroughly as Zhang filled your mind with Confucian precepts and historical examples, you begin to notice the power dynamics more clearly. Zhang is not just your teacher, He is the de facto ruler of the empire. He has placed his allies in every important position. He has ruthlessly purged his opponents, sending them into exile or forcing them into retirement. The entire governmental apparatus runs according to his design, and it runs remarkably well, you must admit. Under Zhong's leadership, the empire is prosperous. Taxes are collected efficiently. The military is strong. The borders are secure. Public works are completed on time and under budget. Zhong is, by any objective measure, a brilliant administrator, but his very competence makes your own irrelevance even more painful. You develop a complicated relationship with this man who controls your life. On one level, you respect him. He is clearly intelligent, clearly dedicated to the empire's welfare. His policies are sound. His reforms are necessary. He works tirelessly, often staying up long past midnight to review documents and draft proposals. He has given his entire life to the service of the state. On another level, you hate him. You hate his control, his condescension, his absolute certainty that he knows better than you about everything. You hate that he treats you as an eternal student rather than as the sovereign. You hate that when he looks at you, he does not see the Son of Heaven but a boy who still needs constant supervision. Your mother, the Empress Dowager, sees your frustration but can do nothing, while Jiang Zhujiang controls the outer court, the world of governance and state affairs. There is another realm of power within the Forbidden City that operates according to different rules. This is the inner court, the residential section of the palace, and it is a world dominated by women and eunuchs. Here, away from the formal audiences and Confucian lectures, a different kind of education is taking place. You are learning the subtle art of palace intrigue, the deadly game of whispered words and hidden daggers. The inner court is a vast warren of courtyards and pavilions, gardens and halls, all arranged according to strict hierarchies. At the very center is the Palace of Heavenly Purity, your primary residence, a place so sacred that even high officials may enter without permission. Surrounding this are the quarters of the Empress, your formal wife, and various consorts and consorts who may be sold. Beyond these are the residences of your mother, your dowager, and members of your family. The entire complex is serviced by thousands of palace maids and hundreds of eunuchs, all living in a state of forced celibacy, all competing for favor and position in this world. Your empress is a girl named Wang, selected for you when you were 14 years old through an elaborate process that involved examining candidates from all the most prominent families in the empire. She is beautiful in the classical manner, with pale skin and delicate features, skilled in music and needlework, and all the arts deemed appropriate for an empress. But there is no warmth between you. Your marriage is a political arrangement, a joining of lineages, and the relationship is conducted with painful formality. You visit her chambers on the prescribed nights, perform your conjugal duties with mechanical precision, and then return to your own quarters. She bows to you. You nod to her. Words are exchanged that mean nothing. You are husband and wife, but you are strangers. The concubines are a different matter. You have dozens of them, young women selected for their beauty and brought into the palace to serve anyone from influence, among them according to schedule, preventing emotional attachments that might be favored. But you are a young man, not a machine, and despite all the precautions, you develop preferences. There is a woman who captures your heart almost from the first moment you see her. Her name is Zhang. She is in wit, skill, as well as in the more intimate. When you visit chambers, you find yourself staying longer than protocol dictates, talking with her about things you can discuss with no one else. She listens to your frustrations about Jiang Zhujiang, your resentment at being controlled, your dreams being ended. She does not lie you or correct you. She simply listens and occasionally offers observations that are surprisingly astute. In her presence, you feel like a person rather than an imperial symbol. Mother, the Empress Dowager, watches your growing attachment to Lei Zheng with concern. She understands the dangers of imperial favoritism, how a beloved concubine can become a power center, manipulating the emperor and interfering in state affairs. Chinese history is full of such cautionary tales, emperors brought low by their love for unsuitable women. She tries to counsel you toward moderation, toward treating all your women with equal regard. But you are young and in love, perhaps the only real love you will ever experience in your constrained life, and you reject her advice. You begin spending more and more time in Lady Zheng's quarters, neglecting your other consorts, even neglecting your empress. The palace women form factions around this rivalry. Some align with the empress, supporting the legitimate wife and the principle of proper hierarchy. Others align with Lady Zheng, seeing her as the rising power. These factions compete through 1,000 small acts of sabotage and advancement. A word dropped in the right ear. A gift presented at the opportune moment. A rumor carefully cultivated. The eunuchs, who serve as intermediaries between the women's quarters and the outside world, play both sides, profiting from the conflict. The eunuchs themselves are a fascinating and disturbing presence in your life. They are men who have been castrated, usually as boys, in order to serve in the inner court without posing any threat to the imperial bloodline. The operation is brutal and dangerous. Many boys die from infection or blood loss, but for those who survive and are accepted into palace service, it offers opportunities that would otherwise be unimaginable for someone of their low social class. A clever eunuch can rise to positions of tremendous power, controlling access to the emperor, managing imperial finances, even leading military campaigns. Fang Gua, who has been with you since childhood, is now one of the most powerful men in the empire. As director of ceremonial, he oversees all the eunuchs in the palace, a position that gives him enormous influence. He controls your daily schedule, decides who gets an audience, manages the flow of information to and from you. He is also fabulously wealthy, having accumulated a fortune through gifts, bribes, and various corrupt schemes. Zhong Zhuzheng despises him but tolerates him because Feng Bao is useful. The eunuch supports Zhang's policies, helps implement his reforms, and most importantly, keeps you manageable. But there are other eunuchs who resent Feng Bao as Tamanan-san, who see, in your growing resentment of Zhong Zhuzheng, an opportunity to advance their own positions. They whisper to you about Feng Bao's corruption, his disrespect, his secret mockery of imperial authority. They offer themselves as more loyal servants, more dedicated to your true interests. You listen to these whispers with growing interest. You are beginning to understand that power in the Forbidden City is not just about formal authority, but about controlling the flow of information, about having loyal servants in key positions, about building networks of obligation and favor. This is a kind of power that Zhong Zhuzheng, for all his brilliance, does not fully appreciate because it operates outside the Confucian system of merit and virtue. Your days in the inner court follow their own rhythm, distinct from the rigid schedule of study and audiences that Zhang imposes on you. You awake latte, by his standards, at the 5th watch, around 6 in the morning. After breakfast, on days when you are not required to attend audiences or study sessions, you have a few hours of relative freedom. You might practice calligraphy in your private studio, grinding ink and forming characters on silk or paper. This is one of the few activities that gives you genuine pleasure. There is something meditative about the process. The focus required to form each stroke correctly, the way a well-executed character seems to capture something essential about meaning and form. You have been trained in several calligraphic styles, from the austere clerical script to the flowing cursive hand. Your work is quite good, some say excellent, though you never know whether people are being honest or simply flattering the emperor. Sometimes you walk in the imperial gardens, though even this simple pleasure is constrained by protocol. You cannot simply stroll wherever you please. Eunuchs scout the path ahead, ensuring that no unauthorized person is present. Guards follow, at a discreet distance. Servants carry portable chairs in case you wish the rest. The spontaneity is drained from the experience. Still, the gardens are beautiful, carefully designed landscapes of rocks and water, pavilions and bridges, ancient trees and flowering shrubs. In spring, the gardens explode with color, plum blossoms and peonies, cherry blossoms and magnolias. In autumn, the leaves turn gold and red, and the air carries the scent of chrysanthemums. These moments of natural beauty are among the few times you feel something approaching peace. The afternoons are often devoted to religious observances. Despite the Confucian emphasis of your official education, the inner court is deeply influenced by Taoism and Buddhism. There are temples and shrines scattered throughout the complex, places where incense is burned and prayers offered to various deities and ancestors. Your mother is particularly devout, and she encourages you to make regular offerings and to consult with Taoist priests about auspicious dates for important decisions. You find these rituals somewhat tedious, but you recognize their political importance. The common people believe that the emperor is the intermediary between heaven and earth, and maintaining proper religious observances is part of your job. There are also the entertainments, carefully curated diversions designed to occupy your time without allowing you to develop any dangerous opera performances in the palace theater, with elaborately costumed actors performing classical dramas, acrobats, and jugglers, and magicians who perform feats of skill and illusion, musicians playing ancient instruments, the haunting sounds of the guqin, and the people. You watch these performances from a private box, separated from the performers by screens and distance. Sometimes Lady Zhang joins you, and you hold hands in the darkness. This small intimacy, one of the few genuine human connections in your life. The evenings are for reading, though not the kind of reading Zheng Zhuzheng prescribes. In your private chambers, away from your tutors, you read histories and poetry, travel accounts, and even some fiction. Though novels are considered vulgar by Confucian standards, you are particularly fascinated by accounts of the wider world, of foreign lands beyond China's borders. You read about the tribute missions from Korea and Vietnam, from the kingdoms of Southeast Asia. You read Marco Polo's description of China, translated into Chinese, and full of amusing exaggerations. You read Jesuit missionary reports about Europe, about the kingdoms and cities there, about their strange customs and technologies. These accounts make you aware of how large the world is, and how small your own world has become. At night, you visit your empress, or one of your concubines, usually Lady Zheng. These visits are not entirely private. Eunuchs wait, outside the chamber, noting the time of your arrival and departure. If you spend the night, they record this as well. If a woman becomes pregnant, these records will be consulted to confirm the child's legitimacy. Even your most intimate moments are observed, recorded, made part of the historical record. Future generations will read about your sexual habits, will analyze patterns to draw conclusions about your character and governance. Nothing is truly private. Nothing is truly yours alone. The inner court has its own justice system, its own hierarchy of rewards and punishments. A palace maid who displeases a consort might be beaten or sent to work in the laundries, a far harsher assignment than serving in the residential quarters. A eunuch who steals might be executed, or if his crime is minor, merely demoted and reassigned to less prestigious duties. You hear about these matters only in the most general terms. The daily administration of the inner court is handled by the senior eunuchs and palace ladies, creating a bureaucracy within a bureaucracy. You are the nominal head of this world, but much of it functions without your knowledge or consent. There are darker undercurrents to life in the inner court, whispers of things that disturb your sleep. Stories of palace maids who have been found dead, officially declared suicides, but rumored to have been murdered by jealous rivals. Tales of eunuchs who have disappeared, victims of internal power struggles, accounts of babies who died in infancy. Their deaths perhaps not as natural as officially reported. The inner court is a world of women and castrated men, people who have no outlet for ambition except through manipulation and intrigue. The stakes are incredibly high. A woman who bears the emperor a son might see her child become the next emperor, elevating her to the pinnacle of power. A eunuch who gains the emperor's trust might accumulate wealth and influence beyond measure. These possibilities drive people to desperate acts. You try not to think too much about these darker aspects of palace life. You tell yourself that these are exceptions, that most of the people serving you are loyal and honest. But you cannot entirely ignore the reality. You are surrounded by people who have been forced into this life through poverty or desperation, people who have given up their families and their futures for a chance at advancement. They smile at you and bow to you and call you by your divine titles. But what do they really think? Do they hate you? Do they pity you? Do they see you as a god or as just another prisoner of this system, albeit a prisoner in golden chains? Your mother tries to shield you from the worst of the palace intrigues, but she is also part of this system. As Empress Dowager, she wields considerable power, particularly in matters concerning the inner court. She makes decisions about which women should be promoted to higher ranks, which eunuchs should be given positions of authority, how the imperial household budget. The news reaches you on a gray morning in the 6th month of the 10th year of your reign. You are 20 years old, reviewing memorials in your study when Feng Bo enters with an expression you have never seen on his face before. It is a mixture of genuine sorrow and poorly concealed excitement. Zheng Zhuzheng is dead. The Grand Secretary, the man who has controlled your life since you were 9 years old, has finally succumbed to the illness that has been consuming him for months. He died at his home, surrounded by his family, after suffering a massive seizure. He was 58 years old. You sit very still when you hear this news. You should feel something, you think. Grief. Perhaps, for the man who educated you and guided the empire so ably. Relief. Certainly, that you are finally free from his control. But what you feel is a strange numbness, as though some essential part of you has been held in suspension for so long that it cannot immediately resume normal function. You dismiss Feng Bo and sit alone in your study, staring at nothing, trying to understand what this moment means. The official mourning is elaborate and sincere. Zheng was respected, even revered, by many in the government. His economic reforms have filled the treasury. His military policies have secured the borders. His administrative innovations have made the bureaucracy more efficient. Memorials pour in from across the empire, praising his wisdom and dedication. The court goes into mourning. You issue a decree honoring his service, granting his family wealth and titles, ensuring that his legacy will be remembered forever. You say all the right things, perform all the expected rituals, and beneath this official performance, you begin to plan your revenge. It starts slowly. Almost officials who were closest to Zhang began to find themselves reassigned to distant posts. Men who opposed Zhang's policies are suddenly recalled from retirement and given important positions. You begin to ask questions about Zhang's administration, probing inquiries about how certain decisions were made, about the sources of his family's wealth. What you discover, or what you allow yourself to believe you have discovered, is evidence of corruption on a massive scale. Zhang Zhang, it turned out, was not the selfless servant he appeared to be. He accumulated enormous wealth during his years in power. He accepted gifts from officials seeking advancement. He placed his sons in lucrative positions. He built a mansion in his home province that rivals some imperial palaces in its splendor. His family lives in luxury that seems inappropriate for even the highest skip. All of this was overlooked during his lifetime because of his competence and your own powerlessness. But now he is dead, and you are emperor in fact, as well as name, and old sins can be revisited. The eunuchs, particularly Feng Bao, feed your growing anger. They bring you reports of Zhang's arrogance, how he dismissed imperial authority, how he treated you as a child who needed constant supervision. They remind you of every humiliation, every moment when Zhang corrected you, or overruled you, or made it clear that he, not you, was the real power in the empire. They tell you that the officials still loyal to Zhang's faction are plotting against you, planning to constrain your authority just as Zhang did. These reports may be true, or they may be exaggerations designed to manipulate you, but they confirm what you want to believe, that Zhang was not a loyal minister, but a usurper who stole your authority. 18 months after Zhang's death, you make your move. You issue a decree stripping Zhenju Zheng of all his honors and titles. You declare that he was corrupt, that he abused his position, that he disrespected imperial authority. You order his family's property confiscated, his sons arrested and interrogated. The eldest son, unable to bear the disgrace, commits suicide. The rest of the family is impoverished and exiled. Officials who protest this treatment are dismissed or punished. Within weeks, Zhang's carefully built political network is dismantled, and his legacy is in ruins. The scholar official class is shocked by your actions. Zhang was one of their own, a brilliant examination candidate who rose through merit to the highest position in the government. The attack on his legacy seems like an attack on the entire system of Confucian governance. Memorials flood in, hundreds of them, arguing that you are being unjust, that you are being influenced by eunuchs and palace women rather than by virtuous principle. They remind you that sage emperors listen to criticism and correct their errors. They quote the classics at you, passages Zhang himself taught you about the importance of honoring worthy ministers. You ignore them. For the first time in your life, you exercise absolute power, and it is intoxicating. These officials who presume to lecture you, to constrain you with their endless moral sermons and historical precedents, now bow before your anger. You have discovered something that Zhang's Confucian education tried to hide from you. You are not bound by tradition or moral principle or the opinion of scholars. You are the son of heaven. Your will is law, and if they do not like it, they can suffer the same fate as Zhang's family. But there is a cost to this assertion of power, though you do not fully recognize it yet. The relationship between emperor and bureaucracy is based on a delicate balance. The emperor needs the officials to actually govern the empire. He cannot read every memorial, make every decision, oversee every province himself. The officials, in turn, need the emperor to legitimize their authority and give direction to policy. When this relationship works well, as it did under Zhang's administration, the empire prospers. When it breaks down, when emperor and bureaucracy are at odds, everything becomes more difficult. By destroying Zhang's legacy, you signal to the bureaucracy that loyalty and competence are not enough. You can be the most capable minister in the empire. You can dedicate your entire life to the state. And still, you might end up disgraced, and your family ruined if you displease the emperor. This creates fear, and fear creates caution. Officials begin to hesitate before offering honest advice. They become more concerned with pleasing you than with good governance. The culture of the court begins to shift, becoming less about merit and more about favoritism. You also empower the eunuchs by destroying Zhang, Feng Bo and his faction have demonstrated their usefulness to you. They supported your attack on Zheng, provided the information you needed, helped you bypass the normal bureaucratic channels. In return, you give them more power, more access, more opportunities for enrichment. The eunuchs have always been present in Chinese courts, but traditionally, they have been kept subordinate to the Now you are elevating them, using them as a counterweight to the bureaucracy. For the next decade, you rule with energy and attention. The first flush of absolute power has not yet faded into boredom or resentment. You are young, vigorous, determined to prove that you can be a great emperor without Zheng Zhujiang controlling your every move, and for a time, it seems that you will succeed. These are the glory years of your reign, the years when the Wanli era looks like it might become one of the great periods of Chinese history. You begin attending morning audiences regularly, rising before dawn to meet with your ministers in the Hall of Supreme Harmony. These sessions are still highly officials presenting memorials and recommendations in formal language. You're responding with carefully considered pronouncements, but there is a difference now. The decisions are yours. You read the memorials yourself, question the officials, debate policy options. You are not brilliant like Zhang was, but you are competent and conscientious. You take your duties seriously. The empire in these years is prosperous and stable. The population is growing, reaching perhaps 150 million people, making China by far the most populous country in the world. Agriculture is productive, benefiting from Zheng's earlier reforms, even if you will not acknowledge his contribution. New crops from the Americas, corn and sweet potatoes, and peanuts, are being adopted and helping to feed the growing population. Trade is flourishing, both internal commerce along the Grand Canal and external trade with Southeast Asia, and even, through intermediaries, with Europe. The treasury is full, swollen with tax revenues. From this prosperous economy, you use this wealth to fund a number of ambitious projects. You repair and extend the Great Wall in the north, strengthening defenses against Mongol raiders. You rebuild portions of the Grand Canal, ensuring the smooth flow of grain from the south to Beijing. You renovate temples and palaces, including extensive work on the Forbidden City itself. You commission magnificent works of art, porcelain and jade, paintings and calligraphy, adding to the Imperial collection. The Wanli reign becomes synonymous with luxury and refinement, and you take pride in this cultural flowering. Your armies achieve significant victories on the frontiers. When Japanese forces invade Korea, your tributary state, you dispatch a massive expeditionary force to push them back. The war drags on for years and costs a fortune, but ultimately you are successful. The Japanese withdraw. Korea remains in the Chinese sphere of influence, and you are hailed as a defender of the tributary system. You also conduct successful campaigns in the southwest, suppressing rebellions and extending Chinese control over previously autonomous regions. These military successes enhance your prestige and seem to confirm the mandate of heaven. The court in these years is a magnificent spectacle. You host elaborate banquets for the highest officials and visiting dignitaries, feasts that feature dozens of courses and last for hours. Entertainments are provided, opera and dance, acrobatics and music. You wear your most magnificent robes for these occasions, dragon robes encrusted with gold thread and pearls, so heavy that you can barely move. You sit on the dragon throne, elevated above your guests, a living symbol of power and majesty. Foreign envoys bow before you, presenting tribute from their kingdoms. Everyone agrees that you are a great emperor, that the empire is fortunate to have such a wise and capable ruler. You expand your personal household during this period, taking more concubines and fathering numerous children. Lady Zheng remains your favorite, and she bears you 3 sons, including one, Zhu Chen, who becomes the center of your affections. He is a bright, charming boy, and you love him more than you ever thought possible. When you hold him, when you play with him in the palace gardens, you feel something you have rarely felt in your constrained life. Pure, uncomplicated joy. You begin to imagine him as your heir, the next emperor, despite the fact that you already have a son by your empress, Zhu Chenglue, who by law and tradition should be the crown prince. Your Empress Wang has given you a son, but you feel no warmth toward either mother or child. The boy, Gang Luo, is a quiet, awkward child who seems to disappoint you without doing anything particularly wrong. Perhaps it is unfair, but you cannot help comparing him to Lady Zheng's son, Changshun, who is lively and clever. You begin to spend less and less time with your empress, and more time in Lady Zheng's quarters. The palace divides into factions supporting the 2 women and their sons, and a tension builds that will eventually tear the court apart. But in these early years, you do not see the danger. You are the emperor. Surely you can decide who your heir will be. The relationship with your mother during this period is
It's really wise to make sure that you have a local copy of every video that's on your YouTube channel. A lot of people record and stream at the same time, but some of them just stream. So if that is you, you need to download copies of the videos that you have on your YouTube channel. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So go to studio.youtube.com. If you're not in the channel for the appropriate property, you can click over here and switch account and choose the account that you need to do. I'm using the Church Media Creators account, so studio.youtube.com. If you're not in the channel for the appropriate property, you can click over. So if that is you, you need to download copies of the videos that you have on your YouTube channel. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So go to
becomes fabulously wealthy, rivaling the richest nobles in the empire. He builds mansions, collects art, lives a life of luxury that would have been unimaginable for a castrated servant boy decades earlier. You tell yourself that this is fine, that these men deserve to be rewarded for their service. But their growing wealth and power creates resentment among the who see the eunuchs as corrupt parasites undermining Confucian governance. You also begin to indulge your own tastes for luxury and collecting. You commission the construction of new palace buildings, structures of. You wake before dawn, as you have every day for years now, to the sound of eunuchs moving softly in the outer chamber. They do not speak, not yet. Even their footsteps are carefully muted, soft slippers on marble floors. The darkness is absolute. No light penetrates the thick curtains of your bed, and you lie there for a moment, suspended between sleep and waking, trying to hold on to whatever dream was fading from your mind. But there is no reprieve. The day has begun, and you are the emperor, and the machinery of ritual must turn. The curtains part. A eunuch bows his face, barely visible, in the light of the single candle he carries. He murmurs the morning greeting, the same words every morning, informing you of the hour and the weather and the schedule of rituals to come. You rise from the bed, your body stiff from sleep, and stand naked while other eunuchs enter with basins of warm water. They wash you with silk cloths, carefully, thoroughly, attending to every part of your body with an intimacy that should be embarrassing but has long since become merely routine. They wash your face and neck, your arms and chest, your legs and feet. They trim your fingernails and toenails, collect the clippings in a jade box that will be examined later for signs of illness. Nothing that comes from your body is waste. Make sure that you have a local copy of every video that's on your YouTube channel. A lot of people record and stream at the same time, but some of them just stream. So if that is you, you need to download copies of the videos that you have on your YouTube channel. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So go to studio.youtube.com. If you're not in the channel for the appropriate property, you can click over here and switch account and choose the account that you need to do. I'm using the Church Media Creators account, so here we are, Church Media Creators. What I want you to do is in the left-hand column is go over to your content section, and you'll see the videos that you have uploaded or you've live streamed. If it's a video that you've uploaded, you'll go to videos. If it's a short, you'll go to your shorts tab, and if it is live, you'll go to your live tab. Now you can always search across your channel for a specific name of a video if you need to. When you found the one that you want, if you select it, we'll do a wedding here that I did for a friend of mine, and if you choose the options, the little three dots here, you can go down and click on download, and what that's going to do is begin the download process. And now you can choose where you're going to save it to, your downloads or an external hard drive or what have you. It is still dark, the sky just beginning to lighten in the east. Stars are visible overhead, though the layout of the Forbidden City is such that you can see only a square of sky, framed by roof tiles. You have lived here for 30 years, and you have never seen the horizon. The procession to the Hall of Supreme Harmony takes 15 minutes. You walk slowly, partly because of the weight of your robes, and partly because imperial dignity requires measured movement. Eunuchs walk ahead of you, calling out your approach so that everyone in your path can prostrate themselves before you arrive. You pass through gate after gate, courtyard after courtyard, each one exactly like the last, an endless repetition of marble and red pillars and golden roof tiles. By the time you reach the Hall of Supreme Harmony, your feet ache and sweat runs down your back beneath the silk. The morning audience is the central ritual of imperial governance, and it has been conducted in essentially the same way for centuries. You ascend to the dragon throne, a long climb up marble stairs, and take your seat. The throne is hard and uncomfortable, designed for symbolic power rather than physical ease. Below you, arranged in precise formations, stand hundreds of officials, organized by rank and department. They wear formal robes and hats, their faces masks of proper decorum. The hall is silent, except for the soft sound of breathing and the occasional rustle of silk. The master of ceremonies calls the audience to order. The officials perform the 3 kneelings and 9 prostrations, a ritual that takes several minutes. You sit motionless, watching jade beads sway before your face, while hundreds of men touch their foreheads to the floor to honor you. When Rai said the presentations begin, officials approach one by one, presenting memorials that have been approved in advance. They recite formal requests and recommendations, their voices echoing in the vast hall. You respond with carefully prepared statements, words drafted by secretaries and approved by ministers, pronouncements that carry the weight of imperial authority. A governor requests permission to construct a new granary. You grant it. A minister recommends the appointment of a new magistrate. You approve it. A military commander reports on border conditions. You praise his vigilance. The content matters less than the form. What is important is that these rituals are performed, that the proper relationship between emperor and bureaucracy is enacted and reaffirmed. This is not governance but theater, and you are the lead actor in a play that has been running for centuries. The audience lasts 3 hours. You sit without moving, your body growing numb, your mind wandering. You think about Lady Zheng, about her smile and her laugh. You think about your children, wondering what